I'm Kevin, and welcome to our review of Godzilla, King of the Monsters. For context, I should start off by saying that I hated 2014's Godzilla, directed by Gareth Edwards, a dreary, boring slog of a movie that tried to pull off the less is more approach to monster movie storytelling perfected by Jaws, but failed in every way that made Jaws good. It takes a lot of effort to make a movie about a giant radioactive lizard that destroys cities and fights other giant monsters boring, and if I wasn't so disappointed by it, I might actually be impressed. King of the Monsters is this time directed by Michael Dougherty, director of the cult horror hits Trick or Treat and Krampus, which are both fantastic, and you should see those if you haven't already, and the third entry in the Monsterverse, Legendary Pictures' attempt to cash in on the cinematic universe trend started and perfected by Marvel and failed spectacularly by literally everyone else. Starting with 2014's Godzilla, and onto the far better Kong Skull Island in 2017, the Monsterverse may be the first cinematic universe following the MCU to actually stick the landing and make something of the concept, especially considering that the old Toho Giant Monster, or Kaiju films, were already technically a shared universe decades before the first Iron Man, so it has the foundations of it built into its DNA. What separates King of the Monsters from 2014's Godzilla, first and foremost, is the monsters themselves. Unlike the previous film, which went with the tell, don't show approach, King of the Monsters has all of the main monsters, Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah, on the screen from practically the beginning, wasting no time getting into the aftermath of the first film, which this entry does follow up with surprisingly very well. After Godzilla saves San Francisco, the rest of the giant monsters have been in hibernation and are being monitored by Monarch, a shadowy government organization whose job is to study and research these creatures, basically the giant monster version of S.H.I.E.L.D. When a group of eco-terrorists led by Charles Dance decide to kidnap their head scientists and cook up a scheme to rid the world of humanity and give the planet a fresh start by having the kaiju, who are revealed to be the actual titans of ancient mythology, give the Earth a cleanse of its pesky humanity problem. This leads to King Ghidorah wreaking havoc, and it is up to Godzilla to show him who's boss. Now, one of the most surprising elements of the film is how well it does handle its human characters. Ken Watanabe's Dr. Serizawa, the let them fight guy from the original, is the only major character to return from the 2014 entry, thankfully dropping the cardboard cutouts of characters from the previous film and instead focus on Vera Farmiga, Kyle Chandler, and Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things as a mother, father, and daughter caught in the middle of all of this mess, each with their own ties to Monarch and the overall plot. King of the Monsters is able to do what the best disaster movies do, and let's be honest, that is basically what these movies are, and make us care about the human characters by giving them distinct personalities, goals, and desires that inform the story instead of being separate from it. Unlike the previous film, the human drama informs the overall plot and doesn't relegate the human characters to standing around watching the plot happen around them. Ken Watanabe especially gives a fantastic performance, bringing his character arc to a natural and satisfying conclusion that began in the 2014 Godzilla. Now, while that is all well and good, the most important question you're asking is, how are the giant monster battles? You know, what you go to a Godzilla movie to see? And the simple answer is, they're freaking awesome! The cinematography in the film is downright gorgeous, and there isn't a single shot of the kaiju in this that wouldn't look great on a poster or wallpaper. But the actual fighting between the monsters is an absolute sight to behold. This is the cinematic equivalent of when you're a kid banging your action figures together, and that isn't a slight against the film at all, because that is exactly what these kind of movies are supposed to be. There are scenes of destruction and carnage in this that will leave your jaw on the floor, pumping your fist in the air like you're 10 years old again. Unless you are already 10, in which case another congratulations is in order for this film by birthing a whole new generation of Godzilla and giant monster movie fans. One of the biggest praises I have for the film is how fantastic the monster designs are. They are able to keep the design and aesthetic from the original Toho films, but inject them with pure cash money and render them in a way that you always wanted to see since you were 10 years old and just never thought you would get a chance to see. The scale, size, and power of the creatures is on full display, as even their smallest movements have devastating consequences on the areas surrounding them. Of course, this film isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There are scenes in the middle that drag on for a little too long, and some of the side characters outside of the main family and Ken Watanabe ping-pong back and forth too much between forgettable and overbearing. The prime example of this would be Bradley Whitford's character, who can't decide if he is in a cheesy 70s Godzilla film full of puns and bad one-liners, or a more modern, dour one like 2014's Godzilla. The story does get lost in the weeds in the back half of the film to try and justify why characters need to be in certain locations for certain things to happen, but it's so minor and inconsequential to what the monsters are doing, and when they are fighting, it's a small nitpick at best. Godzilla, King of the Monsters is why we go to the movies. This is a film meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible, with the loudest sound possible, and the biggest bucket of popcorn you can buy. Lean back in your chair and just enjoy the ride. I'm not one to slam my fellow critics too much, but I'm honestly shocked at the negative press this film is getting. And I think this may be an actual case of more traditional film critics being completely, woefully out of touch with modern audiences and the kind of experience this film is trying to deliver. Something that doesn't happen nearly as often as the internet likes to make you think it does, but I believe this is a legitimate case in this instance. This is the Godzilla movie you have been wanting to see since you were a little kid, but never thought you were going to be lucky enough to get. 9.5 out of 10. Go see this movie as soon as you possibly can.